Thank you, Samson. I think the first thing that this demonstrates is the limits of the law. Like Clara said, the legal framework may exist, but at the heart of it, you're going to need the people to want it for it to work. There's only so much that the law can do. Now, these are people who went to go and choose their leader, and they chose money. How do they expect their leaders, when they come into office, to choose their welfare? They themselves did not choose their welfare. As my senior Tony Paulson has said, there are economic factors there that have to be addressed. But at the heart of it, we have to understand that there's an unbreakable link between what the led accept, expect, and do, and what the leaders will do. If we are telling them that they have to pay us, we can't then turn around and say they are corrupt for paying us. So there must be some actual societal consensus that this is something we don't want. And I don't think we have that. We have, how many years has IOCO, SFO, I've forgotten they've changed their name now, the OSP, the asset declaration regime. We can set up institutions and legislations until we are blue in the face. First of all, after all these years, have we checked to see if these institutions' workings has somehow led to a decline in corruption in the public services? What's the data? And beyond that, our instinctive response seems to be, let's set up a body. But from the delegates who spoke, what body can reach all of these people? So there are education concerns and there are financial concerns, but there's also a sheer lack of will somewhere. You mentioned the NCC is underfunded. Who chooses the funding of our bodies in this country? We somehow manage to pay emoluments to people who are leaving office, but we can't find the money to fund the institution that we have said should get on the ground and create the people we have said we want to be. Then it's a choice. That's who we want to be. We want to be a corrupt society. So that's what we are. At some level, the agreement is going to break down if the people aren't willing to do their choice. If you can get qualified people to sit down and decide what the president should take as an ex gratia package for work he was paid for, but you can't find a parliament to insist that the NCC's budget is too small, and the NCC and its commissioners are not making any public case whatsoever for what their job is and how they can get it done properly, then we have an agreement that we will pretend that we care. And that's the problem that we have with monetization. I wanted to comment on Samia Uku's statement that, supporting transport is necessary.
The party, Doc, the party actually gave each delegate 50 Ghana cedis.
I know. So that's why I wanted to respond to that comment. I agree with him that particularly given the economic circumstances of the majority of delegates, that it makes sense for their transport to be supported, but supported by the person or the institution that is hiring them. It is not the individual candidates they are there to work for. They are delegates of the party. So if there's any transport support that ought to be given, it is of transport from the party by the party's official sources. If the individual candidates see that the party is going to need support in meeting that obligation, as Tony Forson's friends supported his campaign, so the candidates should support their party by putting that money into the party's coffers so that it's distributed through the official party's channels. That they each go around and give money individually is not a statement that we are supporting transport because it is expensive for delegates. And delegates also should have a clear understanding of what they're doing there. This is not their paid service. This is part of their, perhaps, if you will, national service. They're choosing our leaders. If they don't want to do so, they shouldn't. But it should not be a service for which we become indebted to pay market value. I think when we agree that we want to change the way we do our politics, we will. We simply haven't, because it benefits some people at this point to do it this way.
Right. There are those who have been asking, what is the OSP doing? Because it's been charged with this mandate. Because we knew that an attorney general will not prosecute their own people, you needed an OSP that will be independent and separate from the party structure so that they can deal with these. So people are asking, presently there's an assembly, there's a prosecution ongoing by the OSP because a certain man who wanted office as an assembly DCE went paying money. And the OSP Somotu got into the thing, invited him for questioning, and went ahead to prosecute him. I'm reading the Political Parties Act 2000, Section 17. It says, every political party shall elect such persons as may be determined by the members of the party as executive officers of the party. The election of the national, regional, and constituency executive officers of every political party shall be conducted under the supervision of the Commission, the Electoral Commission. The law defines executive officers for a political party to mean, that is Section 33, the national chairman, the leader, the general secretary, or equivalent designation, the national treasurer, and the other members of the National Executive Committee of the party. I read this because the debate is coming up that the OSP may not have power to prosecute where it is an internal election. It is when it is a public election, as expected under the Representation of the People Law, 1992, that the OSP can prosecute. So if it's an internal one, the OSP cannot prosecute. In the Representation of the People Law, Section 34, treating, it says a person commits the offense of treating if he is corruptly either himself or through another person before, during, or after an election gives or provides or pays wholly or in part the expenses of giving or providing meat, drink, entertainment, or provision to or for any person for the purposes of corruptly influencing that person or another person to vote or refrain from voting, or on account of that person or another person having voted or refrained from voting, or being about to vote or refrain from voting, if he corruptly accepts or takes any meat, drink, entertainment, or provision of it in the circumstances and for the purposes mentioned in paragraph A of this section. It also has provisions about undue influence, which says if you do it either directly or indirectly, you will be guilty of an offense. And the penalty is about 6,000 Ghana cedis minimum fine, or 3 years imprisonment minimum fine, or both. And then you are prohibited from voting for 5 years. But here is the catch. You need the consent of the Attorney General to prosecute such offenses, according to Section 42 of that Act. What do you say?
I'm going to start with the debate that the OSP doesn't have jurisdiction to prosecute this matter because it's an internal party matter. The first thing I would like to note is there's nothing private about a political party. Nothing. It is a public body serving a public purpose. When they go and choose their candidate, the reason it is limited to the members of the party is because it is a group of people who have subscribed to one of the options and who want to push that as the society's direction. But it is not their private birthday party. A political party, by definition, is a public institution. We don't have any control over how people fund their birthday parties. There's a reason we talk about how political parties are funded and how political parties operate, because they serve a public function. So by virtue of them being a public entity, every institution that has supervisory control over public entities has jurisdiction over them. So if the OSP were minded to, it should be no bar to him that the it is an internal matter of a public body. But even if we were going to, concede that argument, if you spend 80 million CDs trying to get people to vote for you, I think that figure qualifies as an organized or economic crime. So I think that if nobody else has jurisdiction, IOCO should, because people are hauled before IOCO for much smaller sums.
Right.
So if that is what you're saying, then we have organized lots of duplicitous institutions because we like bodies. So we have lots of bodies. It falls in the jurisdiction of one of them.
Thank you very much. Actually, in Yebi and Avalifo, the Republic, which went to the Supreme Court in 2000, the Supreme Court said the stealing of monies belonging to a political party is a crime against public interests. So maybe the OSP will want to look at this if he feels that it is not sufficiently clothed with jurisdiction to proceed. Now, Oliver.
Substance, just before you move on, can I make a quick comment on the national cake analogy? Because it's a
okay, go ahead.
Interests me.
Go ahead, Maame.
I want us to think about the idea of a cake. What is a cake and what is it for? Right? There's no such thing as growing a cake. We eat it. Yes. We cut it up. We disappear it completely. Now, when you go to a function and they're going to cut the cake, nobody at the function asks, where did the ingredients of the cake come from? How are we going to rebake this cake? The point I'm making here is that the way we think about our nation is predatory. We think of a national cake, it means we think we are going to eat it up. Okay. So if we finish the cake, we will have nothing left. And as long as we think of our country as something to be consumed, we're going to get nothing more than what we have now.
All right.